Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really cool, a new way to build AI assistants that you can actually trust.
All right, so let's start with a puzzle that's probably bugged a lot of you. How can these massive AI models, these LLMs, be brilliant enough to write poetry or, debug complex code, but then you ask them to plan a simple trip and they just completely flub it? What's going on there?
Well, the answer really gets down to what they are. At their core, LLMs are incredible pattern matchers. They're basically autocomplete on steroids. All they're doing is predicting the next most likely word in a sequence. So they're not thinking through a problem, step by step, like we do. They're continuing a pattern. And yeah, that makes them super creative, but it definitely doesn't make them correct.
A fantastic way to think about this is using the System 1 versus System 2 brain analogy. The LLM, that's your System 1. It's fast, it's intuitive, it's that gut feeling. It's awesome for spitting out creative ideas. But for a plan to actually work, you need that slow, deliberate, logical System 2 to come in and check the facts. It's the part of your brain that says, wait a minute, does that actually make sense?
And this is the exact problem that researchers like Khambhampati wanted to tackle. They call it the planner's dilemma. Basically, how do you get all that amazing creativity from an LLM without falling victim to all of its, let's say, logical shortcomings?
So what's their solution? It's actually pretty elegant. Instead of trying to somehow fix the LLM's brain, they built a smart system around it. They call it the LLM Modulo Framework. The idea is simple. Let the LLM be the creative idea generator and then surround it with a team of external verifiers or critics to make sure its plans are actually correct and reliable.
Okay, so you've got this AI idea generator and its team of fact-checkers. How does that actually work in practice? Well, it all comes down to these critics.
First up, you've got what they call the hard critics. Think of these as the rule keepers. They're checking for the stuff that is black and white, non-negotiable. Can this action actually be done? Do the steps make any logical sense? And the big one, does it stay on budget? If the LLM's plan breaks one of these hard rules, it's a no-go. Simple as that.
And then you've got the soft critics. Now these guys handle the more subjective stuff, the gray areas. Like, does the plan match the user's personal tastes? Is it easy to understand? Does it actually solve the problem the user came here with in the first place? These critics are all about making sure the plan isn't just correct, but that it's actually good and useful for you.
Okay, so let's put this all together. Let's walk through how this feedback loop works with a real-world example.
So it all starts with a prompt from a user. Something just like this. A pretty standard request to plan a trip with a budget, a destination, and some dates. This is the starting point for the whole system.
And that query kicks off this really cool generate test critique loop. First, the LLM just goes for it. It generates a creative, natural language plan. But here's the really clever part. The system then asks the same LLM to translate its own plan into a structured format, like JSON, that the critics can actually read. The critics then tear it apart, checking against all the rules. If they find a problem, they send specific feedback, and the whole loop starts over.
And this feedback loop is key, because the feedback isn't just a thumbs down, it's super specific. So if the plan is over budget, the budget critic doesn't just say wrong, it says, hey, the total cost is $1,550, which is over the $1,400 limit. Try again. This tells the LLM exactly what's wrong, so it can do a better job on the next try.
So, okay, this all sounds really good on paper, right? A creative AI with a team of logical fact-checkers. It makes sense. But the big question is, does it actually work? Does it really improve performance?
Well, the results are kind of staggering. Let's look at GPT-4 Turbo, which is a seriously powerful model. Left to its own devices, its success rate on these tough planning problems was a measly 4.4%. But wrap it in the LLM Modulo Framework, that success rate skyrockets to around 20%.
Yeah, you heard that right. That is a 4.6 times improvement. It's a huge jump. And what this really proves is that having an external system to validate the AI's ideas is way, way more effective than just crossing your fingers and hoping the AI figures it out by itself.
And check this out. When you compare to other popular methods, the difference is just wow. Techniques that try to get the LLM to critique itself like chain of thought or reflection, they had a success rate of 0. A big fat 0%. So LLM Modulo wasn't just a little better, it was the only method that worked at all on these problems.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What does all this mean? Because this is about way more than just planning better vacations. This could be a really fundamental shift in how we think about building AI that we can actually count on.
Really, it boils down to 3 huge takeaways. First, you got reliability. You have actual guarantees that the LLM alone just can't give you. Second, it's super flexible. You can design custom critics for basically any job, whether it's travel planning or software development. And finally, it just lets you get the best of both worlds. You get all the creativity and knowledge of the LLM, but you get to cancel out its biggest weakness, its shaky logic.
At the end of the day, the real breakthrough here is a change in perspective. It's about realizing that we should stop trying to make LLMs into perfect, logical brains all by themselves. Instead, we should treat them for what they are: incredibly powerful and creative partners that just need a little bit of guidance from a more logical system.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it? Maybe the future of AI isn't some single giant supermind. Maybe, just maybe, it's a team of specialists. A perfectly orchestrated collaboration between the creative genius and the logical fact-checker, working together to get the job done right.